Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, January 3rd, 2008. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. Well, this week, Andy Sparks from thehomebrewery.com joins me on my patio for a spur-of-the-moment leftover ingredient brew day. Andy and I do a partigyle brew session using ingredients left over from previous brewing sessions. It's the last brew day of 2007. Well, if you're new to home brewing or would like to get into the hobby for the first time, check out our website, basicbrewing.com, where you can find archives of our audio and video podcasts and our DVDs to walk you through basic and more advanced brewing techniques. Well, I hope you had a great holiday season and are having a wonderful 2008 so far. I personally hope 2008 is better to me than the last part of 2007. In the past couple of weeks, someone ran into the side of my car, and my computer, which has been a great machine for the past 7.5 years, finally called it quits. One side effect, unfortunately, is that many of the email messages I had saved to read on this show are now being held hostage in a hard drive until I can rescue them. But help is on the way. Soon, I hope. On the plus side, thanks to help from my buddy Kelly Dodson down in Austin, we have a new home for our online shop. BasicBrewingShop.com looks the same as the old shop, but it should be a bit more robust than the previous version. You can reach it from links on BasicBrewing.com if you forget the new URL, BasicBrewingShop.com. Well, let's take a look into what's left of the mailbag for this week. Brian from Marquette, Michigan writes, "Hi, James. I was listening to the last show when you were talking about the guy who forgot to put the braid on his cooler and had to transfer and then forgot to tighten the braid down again. He mentioned that he ran a cup of wort off to get his pre-boil gravity. Just wanted to make sure other people didn't hear that and think that's how to get your correct gravity. To get a correct gravity reading, you have to run off your entire volume and then take your sample from that. If you run off a cup of wort to determine your pre-boil gravity, you will get a different outcome depending on whether you take your sample in the beginning, middle, or end of your sparge, since the first wort that comes out is always more viscous than the later wort." And Brian says, "I loved hearing everyone else's disasters. Great show." Well, thanks, Brian. That's a good catch. I didn't catch that, and you were right. You do need to take your reading after you've collected your entire wort. Otherwise, you'll get an incorrect picture of the gravity of your wort coming out of the mash tun. And depending on if it's at the beginning or the end, you get a different picture. So I appreciate that, Brian. Molly from Blacksburg, Virginia writes, "I just recently started to extract homebrewing. I did my first batch, an American cream ale, on my stovetop with a partial boil. The beer was pretty decent, but I didn't like boiling it in the house, so for my birthday this fall, my husband bought me a 7.5-gallon stainless steel kettle, an outdoor propane burner, and a wort chiller. Holy smokes." Molly says, "I've since made 2 more batches, an Irish red ale and a honey oatmeal stout with my new setup. They are both okay, but they are both hot. The other grad students in my program didn't seem to mind the pronounced alcohol flavor, but it bothers me. I took some of the beer home to Missouri for the holidays, and my brother agreed that the beer was hot and mentioned that he always had the same problem when extract brewing. He's now switched to full grain." Well, first off, it's great to hear from a female brewer, Molly, especially one with a supportive husband who's buying brew gear. We're used to hearing the reverse, male brewers who brag about their supportive wives, So it's good to hear from that side, from your side of the fence. I suspect the hotness of your brews isn't so much about there being extract brews, but about fermentation temperature, probably. Higher fermentation temperatures can bring about the formation of higher alcohols and perhaps hotter tastes. Now, it may be interesting to see if your brews change as the temperature in your house goes down this winter, as things cool off. Now, I personally try to ferment my brews in the upper 60s Fahrenheit. That's around 20 degrees Celsius. And since I started paying more attention to the fermentation temperature, my brews have improved. And I hope that will take care of your off flavors as well. And also, as a second thought, just to be sure, If you're using table sugar with your extract recipes, replace that with malt extract and go all malt with your brews. Chris from Elkhart, Indiana, writes with another fermentation-related question. Chris says, I've been brewing for 1 year, and I'm hooked big time. You know, that happens. Chris says, I brewed 6 or 7 extract beers, then switched to all grain. All of my beers taste great and disappear quickly. That being said, I have a question about fermentation. The last 3 batches, I chill the wort, aerate, pitch yeast starter at 72 degrees, and then all hell breaks loose. Within 1 hour, fermentation is started with bubbles in the airlock, and soon after the airlock gets plugged. On all 3 batches, I had to switch to blow-off tubes. Is there something wrong, or is this a good thing? The first 2 batches taste good, and I just brewed the 3rd batch today, and it's going crazy as I'm typing this email. Well, I'd say it's better to have way active fermentations than to have fermentations that don't go anywhere at all. But I'm wondering here if you're pitching starters that may be too big for the beers that you're brewing. In our chats with David Logston from Y-Yeast, you may remember, he told us that fermentations that start right away and go gangbusters aren't necessarily the best for the flavor of the beer. David said it's good to pitch enough yeast to do the job, but not so much that the fermentation is too quick and too clean. It's good to get some of the flavors that the yeast create as they're, kind of multiplying and getting enough numbers to do the job and to start the anaerobic fermentation, which is where they start turning the sugars into alcohol and CO2. So there is a balance there. So you may want to take a look at the size of the starters that you're pitching. One more short one that I thought was pretty funny. Peter Aussenhuis from Worth Brewing Company, who we talked to 2 episodes ago, wrote in with this. Peter says, I received an email today from someone in Belgium who listened to the show. He went to my website and found himself in the background of my photo from Bamberg, Germany. Small brew world. Well, that's great. So someone who listened to the show, listened to Peter talk on the show, went to the website, his website, and saw a picture of himself. How freaky would that be? It is a small brew world. But as Stephen Wright would say, I wouldn't want to buy it around. Okay, let's get on to the meat of the show this week. I invited Andy Sparks to come over to the house and take advantage of a beautiful day this past weekend. A little windy, but beautiful nonetheless. I wanted to brew up a batch of beer using some leftover ingredients that I had around the house, and I also thought it would be a fun excuse to record a show. Well, Andy Sparks, welcome to the patio.
Well, I'm glad to be here, James. It's a beautiful day.
It is. It's a gorgeous day, and I appreciate your coming on, pretty much short notice. I was planning on brewing today anyway, and then I thought, hey, I don't have a show lined up for next week, and everybody's gone for for vacation and holiday and stuff. So I said, let's just do a, leftover ingredients brewing day.
Well, it sounds like a great idea. I've had the itch to brew lately, too, but with the Christmas rush and all, I haven't had a chance to get out and brew. And thought about brewing over the holidays here, but, again, so much going on. But when you said something about brewing today, I was like, that'd be great. And I do have a few kind of unique little things that I've been kind of wanting to, brew with, and I think we might be able to have some fun with.
And I don't think we've ever brewed together, have we?
I don't think so either. It would have been probably down at the shop maybe if we ever had, on a Saturday maybe. But no, I don't guess we have. We've been at a lot of events where other people are brewing, but we've never sat down and brewed together. This should be fun.
Yeah, or it could be disastrous, or we might have a conflict of styles here in brewing. And
no, we'll set the rule right now. No conflicts.
One thing that's going to make our brew day easier on that side of things is that we're going to do a partigyle, or at least we're going to attempt to do a partigyle today, and that is we're going to do a big beer and a small beer off the same mash. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you control over what the big beer is going to be, and then I'll take the little beer, and maybe that way we'll have some boundaries.
Okay. Well, I hope you'll hear what I plan for the big brew and offer your comments. But yeah, this should be a lot of fun.
So we've got I've milled 20 pounds of two-row already, so that's kind of going to kind of be our base. And I've got various, 90 Lovabond Crystal, 60 Lovabond Crystal, Black Patent, and chocolate in there, just, kind of leftovers. And, I stocked up on some of those because I use them a lot. And you've also brought some stuff, too.
Right. I brought a little taste of some Special B, Belgian Special B. It's kind of a crazy little thing. I only brought 4 ounces, and we're making a lot of beer today, so it shouldn't add a whole bunch, but you don't need much of this stuff, so that should be fun. I also have a couple pounds of flaked rye. I had a really nice Imperial Rye beer from, I think it was Pizza Port about a year ago, and it was an Imperial Rye PA, and it was just absolutely delicious. So I scored a couple bags of rye for my personal stash, and but haven't had a chance to use them, so I thought I might bring them out here and see what we could do with them.
Now, what does a Special B give to the beer?
Well, Special B is going to add a little bit of complex burnt sugar characters, a lot of kind of raisin characters. It's an interesting grain. It's one that I suggest people taste, maybe make a little tea of and taste how it comes out before they throw a bunch in a beer, because it does add a powerful kind of a, again, it's kind of a raisiny, molassesy, burnt sugar character to the beer.
Does it need to be converted?
No, it's just like crystal malt. You should be able to use it as a steeping grain or a specialty grain.
So one thing we might want to think about is saving that for the small beer, since we've got such a small amount of it. We could steep that into the mash water, or the water going into the mash, and then that we could add some interesting character to the small beer that's not in the big beer. What do you think about that?
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I was thinking that we were going to be keeping the sugar components or the extract components of the two batches the same, except for bigger and smaller. But yeah, that's an interesting idea. Switch them up a little bit so we don't just have the same flavor beer.
Well, we can think about that here in a few minutes. But we've also got. I've brought a sack of hops down from from my fridge, and some of those are pretty old. But there's some interesting stuff in there that we might want to look at. What are you finding in there?
Well, I mean, I'm really interested in these German Pearl hops, but there's just not very many of them. We've got an ounce of organic German Pearl, which would be a lot of fun. And I have I have 2 ounces of whole leaf Pacific Gem hops. I'm not sure whether we'll use those or not. It's something I got when I got my rhizomes last spring from Fresh Hops. Looking forward to trying that. We might also use that maybe only on the small beer or something like that. Let's see. We got some Amarillo. Wow, James, you have a couple jars of Amarillo.
We don't have to use all that today.
You must like Amarillo, huh? No, it's good. Ooh, and some Kent Goldings. That would add some spiciness to one of the others.
Yeah, that might be good in the small beer.
Yeah. Okay, some Fugels, a little taste of Tet. Some of these are so small they're not going to add a whole lot of character, even if we added them. So what else? A little Tomahawk. That's looking a little old. Let's set that aside. And let's see, some Fugs and some Simcoe. Just a taste of that. Some Centennial.
Those are looking kind of yellow, too.
Those look old. They've got an 06 date. We need to cull those out of your little stash, too.
Yeah, that or, save them for something weird.
Some crazy Belgian that uses some stale hops. Actually, the truth is, for those kind of crazy ones that actually look for those, you're really looking for a noble, stale noble hop. You can't just use any old stale hop for that sort of stuff. And those are very weird specialty beers anyway. So, yeah, normally, once your hops start to turn yellow and stuff, just pitch them out. No point.
Well, let me get while we're talking about hops, let me get your perspective from a shop owner's view of the hop situation. We've talked to Chris Colby, and we also talked to a small brewer about what it's like to be going through this this hop shortage. What's it like from the owner of thehomebrewery.com?
Well, to be honest, it's going to be a rough time. I've just recently taken the drastic step of cutting off internet hop sales. I feel like my first and foremost duty is to my local customers, people that come in every few days or once every couple of weeks. Not that I don't love the folks that deal with me over the internet, but so, we really are short, and most of the people that we want to order from are all basically putting us off and saying we're going to give you some maybe just after the first, you'll get a little bit each month, just a little bit of each kind. So we're going to have to make some real tough decisions about where we put those hops. Do we put them in, out for sale for customers that want to brew their beers, or do we put them in kits, to sell? Because a lot of customers love doing kits. So how much do we put on the shelf? How much do we put in kits? It's going to be tough. It's going to be a hard year, and everything I hear from, in the news and stuff says it's not going to get better anytime soon. So, my strategy is going to be try to be much more frugal about how I use hops. Try to be, use hops much more efficiently. One of the things we were doing in the last couple of years was just getting crazy with hops and throwing tons and tons of hops, being pretty wasteful. It was a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun with it and had a lot of fun beers. But I think, I'm going to try, and this is probably a good phase for me to go through. I'm going to try being, as I said, frugal, finding some high alpha hops, using those for bittering, boiling them the full hour, and then use some other hops that I haven't used before for finishing up with, and maybe using those maybe a lot more towards the very end. Not so many multiple additions, but do a nice bittering for a good hour, and then finish up with maybe in the last 5 minutes with something that's fun that I haven't tried before, or haven't used a lot of, or some combinations of ones that I haven't used before, some German and maybe some English, and play around with it. This is going to be a time for us to come up with some fun, different beers to make. Not everything's going to fall in the style guidelines for a while, I think.
I think there's potential to be good.
I think so too. It's going to be hard though, and it's going to I'm going to have a lot of disappointed people that come in with a recipe and say, okay, and now I need Cascade hops, or I need, East Kent Golding hops, and I'll say, we've run out of our monthly allocation, and until the start of next month, they won't send us another, 5, parcels or whatever. So it's pretty tough. But I think the trick is to be flexible and to experiment, have fun with it.
And the grain has also gotten more expensive as well.
It sure has. It doesn't seem to have impacted people as much, and there isn't this problem where we can't get grain X. I can still get, two-row and all the different specialty malts and even some of the imported malts, but they have gone up in price. We've tried to keep our prices steady, but we've recently had to raise our prices on the grains too. It's just they just keep going up and up, and a lot of that has to do with energy costs. They're heavy. It takes a lot of money to ship them to your store, and then that sort of stuff. So the grain prices have gone up. Hopefully that will subside a little bit maybe next year. I don't think it's as big a problem as the hop thing, whereas the hops are going to take a couple years to come back around, get people producing and getting fields productive again. I think on the grain side, people are a little more flexible about how they plant and that sort of stuff. So,
and the thing about it is that with the hop situation, you can change your hops, but without grain, it's kind of hard to make any kind of beer at all.
True enough. You got to have some. But like I said, there's still lots of 2-row and lots of 6-row domestic grain out there. We'll be able to get our base malt. I really don't see a whole lot of trouble right now on the grain side. It's just going to be more expensive. That's all.
Well, cool. Let's pause the recording for a couple minutes and kind of get our minds together as far as our grain bill. And then we'll come back when we're in the mash.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, we're not at the mash. We're before the mash, but I was interested in seeing how Andy's formulating these specialty grains.
Well, right now we're really shooting from the hip here. But that, I think, is part of the charm of this batch, is that this is just spare stuff we have laying around, and we wanted to just make up something on the fly and not really have some pre-planned thing that we're going for. Also, we were talking earlier about being a little more creative this year with the hops and all that. So this is kind of, let's not go for a style necessarily. Let's just start throwing things together. We're going to start off with a little chocolate malt, I think, because I like chocolate malt.
And one thing that we got to think about is, since we're doing the partigyle, and you're in charge of the big beer, my small beers is going to be kind of a derivative of whatever you're doing.
It's going to be directly related to your beer, or your beer is going to be directly related to my beer for sure. So yeah, whatever I do is going to be the seed for your beer. Now we can adjust your beer, make it darker or something, but we won't be able to make it much lighter. So we got to kind of think about that when we start out.
So you got some chocolate malt in there.
I've got a pound of chocolate malt.
That was half a pound.
Yeah, and I'm thinking maybe going a little more because, like you said, we have 20 pounds of the base malt there, and I really want to go a little chocolatier than that. Wow, this stuff looks beautiful here.
And the wind chimes add to the ambiance of the proceedings.
Some sort of Buddhist temple brewing beer. I think they... Oh, perfect, 1 pound. Okay, so we started with that. Now, a little black patent. I'm only going to put a touch of this in there, maybe 2 ounces. If James wants that second beer to be black, he could add a little more of this stuff to his beer. Let's see. 2 ounces. Okay. Now let's go for some crystal malt. Let's see what James has here. He has some 90 level bond crystal and some 60 level bond crystal. Let's go with the lighter of the two. We already have plenty of dark malts in here. What I'm really hoping for is for something that's not inky black, but pretty dark brown. So.
And what do you think that the chocolate's going to add some chocolatey flavors.
Yeah,
the black patent's going to be a little bit more harsh.
Right. We didn't add a lot of the black patent, so we're not going to get a lot of harshness. I mean, there's maybe 1 ounce per 10 pounds of base malt. Just enough to add a little touch of color to richen it up the color mainly a little bit. Chocolate malt's going to add a nice roasty character to it. It's one of those things that I find a lot of people, they taste a beer that's got a lot of, or a nice base of chocolate malt in it, and they really, it has that roast, almost burnt toast kind of character, which I like. The next thing I'm going to do is add some of this crystal malt, and that's going to give it some additional body to the beer, and add a little more kind of toffee-like sweetness, although since we have the medium, it's going to be more of the burnt character than the toffee character. So, and I think I'm going to go ahead and add a good bit of this. We have a lot of base malt, so we're going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and add at least a full pound of this.
I should be writing this in the logbook as we're going along. Of course, we can play the recording back to see what you've been doing.
Go. So, okay. Just a touch more. It's like a 2.19. There, okay.
Throwing individual grains into the bucket.
Oh.
Now, what do you think about the Special B? I mean, do you want to...
I'm leaning towards going ahead and throwing it in now. I think it's going to give us a better character to both beers in the long run than trying. And I think if you put all 4 ounces into that little beer, it would have way too much character, Special B character. This way, it'll add a nice nuance to both beers, I think. So I think I'm going to throw it all in.
Okay. So 4 ounces.
4.2 ounces. And actually, it's already ground. I ground it at the shop yesterday. So what I'll do is I'll just leave it here. We'll grind the rest of this stuff up, and then we'll add all this stuff to the mash. So we don't have to add that to the tub right now.
Cool. So are we ready to mill?
I think so. What do you think? We've got, let's see. Let's go over it again. We have a pound of chocolate, a pound of medium crystal malt, a little touch of black patent, and 4.2 ounces of Special B.
Yeah, I think that sounds interesting.
Sounds good to me. Let's take it over to the mill and grind it up. I think this is the first time I've used your mill, James.
Yeah, I don't have it motorized, so it's all hand done.
Well, it's nice and easy to crank. I don't know. There's some charm in doing it by hand. I'd probably only do it once though, and then get a motor for it.
Of course, I've already done the 20 pounds of base malt, so you got it easy.
That's for sure. Wow, they look pretty as they come out the bottom there.
Then our next step is to figure out how much strike water we're going to need and what temperature we'll need, and then we'll head on from there. What do you think about? What do you think our mash temperature? We'll do a single temperature infusion mash. What do you think about the mash temperature?
Oh well, I'd like for this beer to have a lot of body to it. But on the other hand, we're making an awful big beer, so it's naturally going to have lots of residual sugars in it. So we might want to lean the temperature a little towards the drier side, so a little low maybe.
Of course, then again, the mash that you make is going to affect what the sugars that you make in the first mash is going to affect what the little beer is. So we've got to strike a balance. We don't want the little beer to be too dry, or it's going to be watery.
True, very true. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, we'll wrestle it out, and we'll definitely come back at the mash and let you know what we figured out. Okay, we've mashed in now, and now be careful of the braid on the bottom there. Don't wiggle it around too much. But this is about as full as the mash tun will get. We forgot to add the 2 pounds of flaked rye, so we added that. And how would you describe the condition of the mash tun at this point, Andy?
Extremely full. Well, we're within an inch of the top, but we have a lot of liquid in here, so I think we're good. But the mash, it's 4 or 5 inches before you get down in there and you start to feel the thickness of the mash. So I'm not really sure. It sure does smell good.
And the lid, it's a 10-gallon Rubbermaid cylindrical cooler, and the lid is actually the part that goes in the cooler is actually thicker than the distance between the top of the mash and the.
It's too bad it's not flat on the top. We could flip it over and use it, but it's got a handle.
Well, we still have to take our temperature. We were shooting for, what was our mash temp going to be, 153 or something?
We were going to try for a kind of a middle of the road mash temperature.
Okay.
153.
Okay. Why don't you stir about a bit? And I've got a very short thermometer. That's what she said. But we're coming up to temperature. Keep on going. Ooh. Well, we're a little low. But who knows? I'll have to. Okay. Well, no, that's okay. Now you're dredging up some of the stuff from the bottom.
I'm trying to mix up.
And be careful of the braid down there. Oh, well, we're pretty close, actually.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if let's see, I'm going to try and touch the bottom. That's the bottom, so I'm stirring up maybe 2-3 inches from the bottom, so I should be able to stay off that braid like this. So, ooh, gosh, it smells good.
We're actually closer to like 151.
That's fine. I think we'll be okay there. A little lower than we wanted, but heck, that's part of the fun.
So how does it taste at this point?
Well, obviously it's still not very sweet, but it does taste nice. You get the little roasty character from some of the roasted grains and stuff, but I look forward to what it'll taste like here in about an hour.
Okay, well, let's put the lid on and get a burger, and then we'll come back and see where we are.
Get that other. Sounds like a good plan to me.
Oh, yeah, and we'll have a couple beers along the way, too.
That's a given.
Okay, we've done the mash, and we've done the first runnings, and it looks like your beer is almost 5 gallons. And right now we took a gravity reading with a refractometer, and it looks like it's about at 1085 pre-boil gravity at 5 gallons. So what do you think, Andy?
That's right. Well, I mean, we're like you said, we're right at the 5 gallon mark. We're going to boil off probably a gallon of it at least. That means we'd end up with 4 gallons, but of course that's going to drive the gravity up. I'm tempted to top up a little bit here. I hate to, not do closer to 5 full gallons. And since we're a little rich here, we could probably afford that. I don't know. This is our beer, though. Both of these are for both of us, so let's figure out what we want to do here.
Well, I mean, the one thing is you could add water. Another thing is we could add another, gallon or so into the mash tun and run off another gallon. But, that's sugars that won't go into the second beer. That's
true. That's where the way I'd approach it probably right now, since we haven't even, sparged the second half out of this thing. I would probably try and get another gallon out of it. Again, that would short the next beer. I don't know. Yeah, I'm on the fence a little bit here. I'd probably go for putting another gallon of water in the mash tun, running that off, and then if we have to bring up the gravity on the little baby beer, the small beer, the second runnings, we might do that with some honey or something like that. We have a little more flexibility there, I think. So,
see, my inclination is just to say, this is the first beer.
Okay.
And to say this is what we got, and we'll get a big old beer. We won't get as much beer with a big old beer, but it'll be extra special. Okay. But I don't know. I'm willing to compromise.
Huh? Sounds like we need a coin.
Of course, I don't make any cash transactions nowadays anymore. But
yeah. Let's flip a credit card over.
Flip your iPhone, throw it up in the air, and
kabloosh right in the word. Oops.
I don't know. What do you think? I mean,
let's go for it. Let's go ahead and just boil this one out. The problem is, I'm afraid now at this point, if we boil off a gallon and a half, we're going to be sitting in the 3.5 gallon range. I just hate to get too small. It might be really rich at the expense of not having very much, and it might be, a really big beer, a little less drinkable. I don't know. I just.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we? I've got my 6.5 gallons worth of sparge water already heated up. Why don't we heat another gallon? That's filling up my second brew pot here. Uh-huh. Why don't we just heat another gallon of water up to 170? Do another, sparge the grains a little bit with that, and bring you up to like 6 gallons.
That'd be better. At least 5.5. Let's try to shoot for above 5 somewhere. I hate to be starting bumping 5 gallons, because then I know we're going to be way under. So
okay,
it is fairly rich. So.
Okay, so that's it describes the character of the wort so far.
Wow, the wort has a very nice roasty character. It's inky black right now, slightly brown than black, but has a really nice character. We both think he's smelling a little bit like a porter, but so far very encouraged by the smell and the taste.
Yeah, it looks good, smells good. Okay, we've got to heat it up. We'll be back. Okay, we're bringing the worts up to boil, and we have a new guest. Introduce yourself, kind sir.
Hi, my name is Steve Wilkes, long-time listener, first-time caller.
And Steve's here now. He's off work. He's been playing music all morning.
I did. I got up and went to work at the local restaurant. I do a jazz brunch at, and knew there'd be good beers out here and some wacky brewing going on. Now, you guys are doing a partigyle, right?
We are, and we've done the mash, and we've run out both batches. And Andy's beer, we augmented your beer with another gallon. And what do we got now?
I think we're at 1080 now. Expecting to finish maybe a little higher than that when we boil down. But I'm having a little trouble getting mine to boil. I'm only sitting at about 165 now. Well, yours looks like it's probably at about 200 based on the foam that's on the top of it. So I'm a little frustrated by that. But we've got our hops calculated out, and we're getting ready to do that.
What did you, and we added your gallons, so you're right at 6 gallons pre-boil volume, and around 1080, I think we said. And what do you think for the hopping schedule now?
Well, we're trying to just go with using what we have here in front of us. So I'm just kind of looking through what we had. There was a smidgen of Simcoe left. It's a nice high alpha, 10% alpha. And then I did ran some numbers, And there was a full jar of Amarillo, which is at about 9.5, and that looks like if I use both of those, that'll put me right around in the high 90s, which I think will complement this 80-point beer pretty nicely. So, but nice West Coast stuff. Of course, it's all on the bitter side, so we won't be able to be able to pick that up so much, but should be good.
So a couple ounces of Amarillo, and then some Simcoe.
About 0.4 ounces of Simcoe. It's just what was left from some other batch we'd done. Or that you did, I guess.
And then what do you think about finishing?
I'm going to finish. I actually happen to have 2 ounces of Cascade plugs. They're the last Cascades I had in the store, and decided I'd use them for me. So we're going to throw those in right at the end, try to get as much of the hop aroma from them as possible. And we're going to not be too crazy on the hopping. We're just going to go with the bittering hops and throw some in on the finish at the end.
In my little beer, the second runnings, I've got 6.5 gallons pre-boil, and I think it was like 1023 pre-boil gravity, and I'm figuring my calculations, if they're not completely incorrect, I'll get a little bit less than 1030 going into the fermenter as it is, but I'm going to add a couple of pounds of honey in there. We've got some of that dark watermelon honey from our buddy Dave down in Little Rock that I'm going to put in there.
Yeah, hi Dave. That honey that's gonna really kick this up and make it into a lovely little braggot.
Yeah, I think it's still going to be a session beer, but it'll have some interesting character. And I'm just going to go simple with the hopping. I'm going to go with an ounce of Kent Goldings at the beginning, pellets. And I haven't figured out what I'm going to do at the end. I'll probably there's a bit of a boil started in my kettle, so I'm gonna watch after that.
Watch the pot can boil.
And he's watching the pot, and it is coming up to boil. So we'll call MythBusters. But anyway, let me take care of that before it goes over. We'll be back. Okay, it's about 10 minutes before the end of my boil. And about 5 minutes ago, I put in the 2 pounds of honey. It's around 2 pounds. It's what, a quart? Is that a quart?
No, that's a pint.
Anyway, it's about 2 pounds of honey, and the honey was just about all crystallized, and I had to scoop it out and kind of mix it around real good. And then I put the rest of the little jar of Kent Goldings hops in there, and it was like 0.4 ounces. So, it's all over, but the waiting about 5 more minutes, and then I'll be taking this off the boil. And Andy, you found the windiest spot on the patio, apparently.
Yeah, it seems I did. Also, the gas tank that I was using didn't seem to let the gas flow out as fast as I switched out to another tank, and it seems to be working a little better. I've set up a little windshield to kind of keep the air from blowing on the fire, and that's heated up. It's now rolling good. We've been boiling for 25 minutes or so. I've got about 35 minutes to go, but it is unfortunate since I was actually on the fire before you were, and I'm 30 minutes behind you. So,
story of my life. But it smells good out here on the patio, doesn't it? We have, for the first time, we have a gallery in our brewing activities. And Steve, you're not a participant; you're a spectator this time.
Yes, I am. I'm enjoying being in the gallery, and the thing I like best about being in the brew gallery instead of the golf gallery is I don't have to move from hole to hole.
And you don't have to whisper, and you get free beer.
That's true. Those are all good things. It does smell great out here. It's just wonderful.
So what do you think about the process? I mean, you weren't here for the mashing part, but you've seen the 2 boils from one set of grains here.
Well, of course, we did a partigyle some months ago, and all I can say is the excitement was riveting.
Riveting, as it were. Yes, and we're tasting some really good beers. Well, I guess the next step, you have yet to put in your Cascades for finishing.
Right, yeah, I'm going to put in the Cascades right at the end, basically right before I put the wort chiller in with the heat off. So those will get in about 30 minutes from now.
Cool, and maybe I'll be chilled by that time. And then what we're going to do for pitching is we're going to aerate real well, and then I think we're going to use 2 packets of the Saf Ale US-05 for yours.
Okay. Well, that should be nice. That should produce a beer that give it plenty of yeast to ferment out all the sugars in it. That 05 from Saf Ale is very alcohol tolerant. Should have no trouble kicking this beer.
And I've got 1 packet of the British strain, the Saf Ale 04, I believe. So that ought to do the trick. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We will come back and fill you in on the rest in a minute. So here we are at the final stage. My little session beer turned out to be the final gravity turned out to be close to 1040. It's about 1038, I think. So that extra bit of honey brought it up a bit, and it looks good. And I forgot to taste it. We forgot to taste the wort.
Oh, no kidding. That's crazy.
But
we won't have that problem with this one, I promise.
And now we're getting Andy's barley wine in there, and we can't forget to take a gravity as we're doing that. But lessons learned, Andy. What do you think? Other than picking a better place on the patio to get out of the wind.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem today. Was I was in a little windy spot and couldn't get the kettle boiling fast, which kind of put me behind the curve. The other thing, I'm having some ideas about how to transfer this wort a little better next time. Put some whole hops in this one, so as always when you use whole hops, it's a little tricky because those little hop sponges or those little wort sponges soak up so much of the precious wort. You kind of got to work around that a little bit, but we're going a little slow right now. I'd like to see it moving along a little faster, but
could it be because the wort is so thick at this point too?
I don't think so. I mean, it's definitely much thicker than the first batch, but it keeps breaking siphon. It keeps getting clogged with hops. So, yeah, I think, one thing I have done in the past is I've gotten my bottling bucket out, and I have a real nice stainless strainer. And what I'll do is I'll put the strainer on top of the bottling bucket, and I'll just pour off right through that. That'll capture the big most of the big hops. Aerates it a little bit, and then I go right out of the bottom of the bottling bucket into the carboy, which means it's just flip the thing in and drain it in. And that has worked pretty well, and that might have been a better option for this because it's going a little slow.
Well, it's still going.
No,
it's looking good. It's a fairly dark beer.
Smells wonderful.
Smells wonderful because you put those 2 ounces of whole Cascade, or those. Or is it 2 ounces or 1 ounce?
It was 2 ounces of 4 of the plugs. So they were the American hot plug, Cascade hot plugs.
And boy, did they smell good.
Yeah, they do.
Well, guys, this has been fun. What did you think, Steve?
Well, it was interesting just to kind of hang out. I was telling you earlier how much easier it is to be a spectator. And I'll get to drink some nice beers today too that you made.
Well, excellent. Thank you, sir. All right. Well, we'll let Andy finish up here, and we'll pitch the yeast, and we'll be on our way. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, James.
Thanks, James.
Well, thanks again to Andy and Steve. Andy is the owner of thehomebrewery.com, and Steve can be seen on Basic Brewing Video and our brewing DVDs. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com, or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And don't forget to tell us where you're from. And don't forget to check your email address, by the way. The 2008 Brewers logbooks are still here. Still got some. Check them out on our site. And check out the new low-tech lagering decoction mashing DVD, where you can see Steve do a single-step decoction mash, and follow me through a lager fermentation in the middle of summer here in northwest Arkansas, where I don't use a dedicated chest freezer in the process. There also are original DVDs. In Basic Brewing, Introduction to Extract Home Brewing, we walk you through the extract brewing process, step by step from boiling to bottling. And in Basic Brewing, Stepping into All Grain, we take you through the all grain process from milling your grain to collecting your wort. And we've got new combo deals to save you a few bucks if you want to buy more than one DVD at a time. And we appreciate everybody who's taken advantage of the shop recently. You can see a listing of the fine folks across the country also who sell our DVDs on basicbrewing.com. And if there isn't a vendor in your area, you can order it online in our new and improved online shop at basicbrewingshop.com. We've also got hats and shirts, including our ever-popular better be careful, Go Forth and Flocculate shirt. And also thanks to everybody who's continued to click on our Amazon.com link, especially during this holiday season. We much appreciate the support. Our featured products this week that were purchased through the link are Ferminator Medium Yellow De-Shedding Tool with 2.6-inch edge, and Pan's Labyrinth New Line 2-disc Platinum Series. Watch that over the holiday season, Pan's Labyrinth. Boy, it's a beautiful, well-done movie. Sad as all get out, but good. Thanks again, everybody. And remember, I can't tell who bought what, so no worries there. Just click on the Amazon.com logo on our site the next time you feel like Amazon shopping, and we do appreciate your support. Can't wait till 2008. It's going to be a good year. That's all until next week, everybody. Until then, thanks for listening. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson, our buddy in Austin, Texas, who also did our logo. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. So long.